Hello, good evening. My name is Maxwell Smart. This is odds.com's college basketball show. I am joined tonight once again by the stout, by the dangerous, by the Dodger loving master Jedi of unders, the man who makes unders great again, Nolly Knows. Nolly, how are you doing coming off our first show, which by my standards weren't too bad, but by yours, you probably viewed it a little differently?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I had a great time. I love being here. I love expressing all my opinions and having somebody to listen to them. But ultimately, we're here to win, and we didn't get that done. We went 1-2. We missed that one total by 1 point. Brutal. They made the adjustment down. I thought it wasn't enough. It was, and ultimately, we just didn't get the job done. And I'm here for vengeance. That's what I'm here for as well. We're gonna keep grinding. This is a daily grind, and we're gonna dig out of it and get some profit, hopefully.
I like to hear that, Noli, because you know what? I've actually gotten quite prepared for this show with a bunch of different carbs. I had a bagel, I had a blueberry muffin, and I had a chocolate sprinkled donut. So I am really carved up. I'm ready to go. I'm coming off a 5-7 minus 2.7 day. So it's not that bad that I have to eat banana and ketchup again, but I'm definitely looking for revenge. And Noli, I have to tell you this, and I have to tell our great odds.com audience who we're very thankful for continuing to check out the show while Jimmy is making a baby come into the world. But after that 2.7 unit performance being down, I couldn't go indoors to engage with my ladies of the night. I had to go into a stairwell. I had to bring my hand warmer. And maybe or maybe not, there was a city rat the size of a 14-inch dildo that ran into my shoe halfway through the act. So I'm really ready to talk about some college basketball, and I'm really ready to get back on the roller coaster up instead of that roller coaster down. So I'm going to jump right into it, Noli, and I'm going to jump into the first game. We got 9 games that we're going to break down. 2 games that Noli and I are overlapping on, and 1 game that I'm interested to see and hear what he has to say about it. So we'll start off with a 5 o'clock Eastern game, a nice sun going down, walk your dog, pick up his poo type of day. And we got VCU and we got Dayton in the A10. VCU opened up as a 1.5 point favorite. Right now, I'm seeing them at 1.5, and I see a 2 across the board right now with a total at 132.5 and one very lonely 133. So with VCU and Dayton, these are 2 very interesting A10 teams. We've seen VCU be very stout when it comes to their win-loss record and whether it be winning it on the road or not. But when it comes to covering spreads, they have not really done an adequate job. And when we talk about Dayton, well, Dayton, they've been pretty good, even though they've been missing Rodney Chapman. They've been getting some good service in the front court from my fellow Canadian Jordy Tishmanga, and they've also been getting some unexpected production from new recruit and new entry into the lineup, Mustafa Amzil from Finland. So I think that this Dayton team definitely has made some improvements when it comes to development of the roster. But in this game, this is a VCU spot for me. I would have had VCU probably at around 3 points, so there is still a little bit of value at 1.5 for me with VCU. With VCU, they've definitely been a little bit troublesome early on in games. I've seen them fall behind in numerous spots, but they are a very stout defensive team that prides themselves on on-ball defending, takeaways, and good defensive rebounding, with Bones Highland being your game-breaking scorer I've seen them come back from deficits as large as 12 points versus St. Joe's. So with VCU, the one thing that I think hopefully can carry over in this game against Dayton is going to be Vince Williams or Ace Baldwin, the point guard freshman. I think that with VCU, this is a young team that's coming together. They don't have the excuse of being young anymore. It's time for them to man up, and they've done a good job on the road. They win with defense. They're road warriors. Takeaways are going to be key, and balanced scoring. If Bones Highland's got to be the guy that puts in 28 points and leads you, you don't have any other double-digit scores, you could be in trouble. You're going to have to contain the aforementioned Mzeal and Jordy Tishmanga. These are guys that have big size. They can operate on the low block. They have the ability to stretch it out to the three-point line. So you're going to have to guard them. But the bottom line is, if you can't limit and stop Jalen Crutcher, you cannot beat this Dayton team, especially at home with the Anthony Grant style defense they play. I do think by my numbers, VCU does have a field goal defensive advantage on a possession-to-possession basis. I think that if you let Bones shoot threes, that's the guy you want. You want everybody else staying off and trying to go close to the bucket. If this VCU defense can force 7 more turnovers in this game like they have been doing in conference and get their 7 to 10 takeaways a game, I think that they're going to win this game. I think that it doesn't really matter that they're going on the road. I think that this is a building that they've won in before. They have an advantage at the free throw line. They have an advantage when it comes to the offensive glass. And I think that those two factors will lead to a victory for VCU. So I'm going to take them -1.5. And when it comes to the juice, I see that the best line that I can get is -108. So, Nolly, if you can give me VCU -1.5 at -108, I'll make that my first show pick, and I'll pass it off to you because this is one of the games that you and I are overlapping on.
You know what? I'm over here searching. I'm searching and searching. The one thing that I will say is that the 110 is available across the board. I mean, the -1.5, -110 available across the board. 108 is the one thing that I cannot find unless you're finding it somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm seeing it right now at PointsBet.
PointsBet?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a legal American book. We on this show, so what happens is we have to use only American legal books on this show as far as line shopping for me. And when it comes to the books that we're allowed Rivers, we're allowed PointsBet, we're allowed FanDuel, DraftKings, Circa, BetMGM, FoxBet. So there is definitely a variety of books that we can find the lines for, but we don't want to be here all day line shopping. So on this one, Nolly and I were able to team up, and on the rest of the games, I will be allowing Nolly to hunt for the best lines. So he better be doing so.
Okay, but I mean the totals is always pretty fair. So that, but anyways, yeah, going right back into it, like Max said, I'm also on this game. Very interesting between these two teams. They've already had a previous matchup earlier in the year in which VCU was able to completely dominate Dayton. They held Dayton to just 13 first half points. It was a 33-13 lead. Virginia Commonwealth ends up just completely blowing them out the water, 66-43. But ultimately, when I look at that game, you look at the poor shooting performance by Dayton, shooting just 30% from field goal range, 15% from the three-point land. And that's something that you've seen out of Virginia Commonwealth. They've been holding their opponents under 30% from the three-point land all year, just giving up 64.9 points per game. Same thing on the other side for Dayton. Dayton has been a great defensive team, giving up just 65.1 points per game. And most impressively, when I look at these stats, Virginia Commonwealth, 11 unders to just 6 overs. So it gives me a good indication that these line makers haven't had a good read on their totals throughout the season. And I think they made another mistake here when I look at the total. I've talked about the great defenses and what we see out of VCU and Dayton. But on the offensive side for Dayton, one thing that I love to see is when a team has a great defense is a very slow pace. And when you talk about Dayton, one of the slowest in the nation, they're 313th in the nation with just 68.1 possessions per game. They're 342nd in the nation with just 50.7 field goal attempts per game. And basically, I'm just betting the probability of them scoring. The less attempts you make, the less chances of you making points. That's just the way it goes. On the other side for VCU, on the season, they average a little bit higher, 74.3 possessions per game. But we talked about it on the last show. This is February basketball. Things are changing quite a bit now at this time of year. Everybody's trying to do what they can to try to make this tournament. They don't know when their last game might be. This might be their last game. They get hit with COVID, it's their last game. So they've got to show out each and every game. And that's what you've seen a lot of these teams kind of turn the switch. VCU, I mean, they've been playing well all year, but what you've seen out of the last 3 games, just 68 possessions per game. Once again, that's good for 313th in the nation. So they've slowed the pace tremendously. And I just think when I look at 11-6 to the under and the way these slow pace from Dayton, the only way that I'm looking at this game is going to be under the total. Under is what I've been riding with VCU quite a bit, and Dayton with their slow pace and their ability to defend, inability to shoot the three. I like the under. I'm seeing around 132.5. That's where I'm at right now.
All right. Well, let me see if I can do better for you right now. I am seeing 132.5, 132.5. All right, I found you a better line, my friend. I found you under 133 at Fox Bet minus 110.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I like that quite a bit.
All right, so in addition to your bet, Nolly, I'm actually going to make a surprise addition onto this game, and I'm going to take the under 130.5 at plus 115 on Bet365. So I'm going to take an additional total, going to take care of that juice, and hopefully put extra 15 shekels in my pocket. So
I like it. Yeah, definitely. I like it. Those are different ways to look at the games. Not all books will offer that, but if you can find a book that does that, you get some confidence in these games, shade a point or two off and get some plus money. It goes a long way when we're talking about over the course of a season. You're betting 3-4 games a day. It adds up quite a bit. You're going to be well over 300 at the end of the season. So every little bit counts.
All right, let's get rolling here. How about you get me started on my next game, Nolly?
All right, jumping right into it because we've got a lot of games going on here today. I believe that is going to be with James Madison versus Elon. James Madison versus Elon, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We got James Madison, 10-5 on the season, 5-1 on the conference in the Colonial Athletic. Have been pretty much running away with it. Elon on the complete opposite side, 0-5 on the conference, over under 3-5. 3-5 ATS. But one thing we see with James Madison, they've been putting up quite a bit of points throughout the season. Elon, when you look at them, offensive ranked pretty much 330th in almost every category. But when you look at James Madison putting up over 80 points a game, just about 80 points a game, and not just that, covering the number quite a bit, 9-3 against the spread on the season. James Madison taking over the Colonial here, facing one of the bottom feeders. What do you think here? Max?
Yeah, listen, with James Madison, they have done fantastic with Mark Byington coming over from Georgia Southern. This is a great move for the program. And I think that with this game against Elon, they know what they're going up against. They know that they can outperform them. They know that they can lock them down defensively. And they also remember that Ikena Ndugba almost started a fight with somebody. I can't remember who was on the James Madison side. So I don't think that they're going to be trying to take it lightly. I think they're going to want to put it on these guys early, hard, and often. So I'm definitely looking at James Madison, Nolly, in this spot, and I'm looking at the under, so you can line shop for me for both of those in the meantime. But with James Madison, it's simple as this. You cannot afford a drop-off performance. You can handle these guys. You can do it with style and freaking sass. So listen, Ndugba, he got heated. It almost got physical. There could have been suspensions. Now it's time to push his buttons again, take the ball right at him, and let Matt Lewis do his work. Matt Lewis has been a revelation. He's playing his best basketball of the year. This basketball that he's playing right now is going to be the reason why he gets himself drafted. This is why coming back to school, developing to the most your potential will allow is so critical if you want to be a pro. And this guy's going to be a pro after playing this year. He's averaging 21 points per game. He's shooting 40% from the three-point line, 4.7 rebounds and 3.4 assists. He does it all. He's like Justin Turner. That's who I think he is. Listen, with the point guard play, this was the area of concern, but over the last 2 weeks, I've really had to come to the realization that I was wrong on this. Terrell Strickland, the point guard freshman for this JMU team, has been absolutely electric. 2 weeks of absolute fantastic play, 12 points, 4 assists, 1.3 steals. The guy's was able to limit Hunter McIntosh. Even though McIntosh was able to get 18 points, he still took awkward and difficult shots to get those points. So on any given day, you may get lucky and hit those, but on another one, you may get locked down. I think that Terrell Strickland is definitely going to play a critical role for James Madison in this game. If he can give you the same kind of production, the same kind of outstanding freshman performance that he's been able to, I think James Madison's going to be able to cover this number, and they're going to be able to do their normal defensive dominant work as well. Plain simply, balanced scoring is required. Zach Jacobs, Jalen Hodge, Justin Amidi, these are the guys that got to get involved in the offense. Look for your offense. Take advantage of a guy that's in Matt Lewis who's going to attract so many double teams. Why not get your shots? What JMU has been able to do in wins on the road and at home are limit teams to under 30 in first halves. With Elon, that's a team that would definitely abide and help you out with that. I think that forcing fouling situations is going to be important. You want to test Elon's maturity. You want to test their sense of control of their emotions, and you want to test their depth, because after Federico Poser, I don't know who else you really can depend on in the front court to give you any production. With James Madison, if they're going to win, they're going to keep their turnovers under 12. They're going to win the takeaway battle. They're going to force turnovers. They're going to go heavy in the first half. This is where they have their best advantage, in my opinion. They're a good starter, and they're not the kind of team that I've seen so far blow a ton of leads in the second half. In the first half, if they can get 38 to 40 points, I think they'll be up by a comfortable margin. I think they'll be able to maintain, if not expand it, throughout the second half. JMU is at their best when they're shooting volume free throws. Their free throw line efficiency is much higher than Elon. The amount of three-point shots that they're going to make on a game-to-game basis has to be close to 10. And when they dominate on the offensive glass with Michael Christmas and guys like Justin Amidi, I think that that's when JMU gets those extra possessions and makes the most of it. I think that when you look at the total, though, lots of these numbers for both these teams in this range have gone under. I think that with Elon, you are a little worried that the Hunters, Hunter McIntosh and Hunter Woods, are able to both contribute equally in the same game. But Elon may not get to 65, Nolly, in this game. And they only averaged 24 in the first half in conference. So they're not scoring the basketball early, and that's really stopping them from gaining any momentum going into the second half. I think that this is a JMU win wire to wire, and I think that this is a game where they may get to 75 or 80, but I don't know if Elon gets to 62 or 60. So
I mean,
lock in on the under spread.
I think you make an interesting point in that because there was a lot of totals earlier in the season where I would pick on some of these bad teams and I would take the under, but the one concern that I would say is that if that team decides to score too many on that bad team, and that's what would happen a lot of times. So would you consider at all maybe a team total under with Elon?
I think that if they were on the road and this was a road game, I'd be more interested in a team total under. But I do think that there is something to say for familiar rims, and I'm not sure what the fan situation is. I don't suspect that there's going to be fans considering how many shutdowns they've had. I just can't be sure of that. But by my numbers, I do think that the under has value. I think that I would have posted the line more around 137.5 to 138.5.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, as far as line shopping, the best number I was able to find for you would be James Madison -4, -110 at Circa right now.
That's beautiful.
Okay. And then as far as the total, I see pretty much the same thing across the board. 143.5 -110.
All right, that works for me.
All right. We'll lock that in for Max right away. 2 games, 8 plays. Beautiful. All right, we're going to go ahead and move right along. We got a lot of games to go over, so we're going ahead and keep it trucking. Next game on the docket is going to be a little bit different than what Max typically goes for. It's going to be Syracuse, North Carolina State. And I tell you, Max, hats off to you. That was a great call last time out, fading Syracuse, going with Clemson at home. I tell you, I ended up tailing that play. Not for a whole lot, but I ended up jumping on. So I appreciate that pick. Way to push me on that. Way to push me over the cliff on that one. I appreciate it, Max. But Syracuse, I mean, not the defensive team that we're used to. You know, everybody talks about the zone that they typically run, but not necessarily this year. Haven't been able to stop people the same way. They're 4 and 5 in the ACC. NC State coming in at 4 and 6. You look at against the spread, Syracuse is just 6 and 10. NC State just 6 and 8. Over under Syracuse 9 and 7, 9 and 6 for NC State. And really, when you look at these two teams, a lot of L's on both sides. So I was really curious on which side you were going to take here, Max, especially when you talk about head to head. You look at the last 13 matchups, Syracuse is ahead in that. It's just 7 and 6. So it's been pretty even throughout the last few years. So pretty tough game for me to sit here and handicap. Really curious on what you think here in this game, Max.
Yeah, Nolly, with this game, I'm looking at NC State, even though they do have some problems winning games, especially since Devin Daniels went out of the lineup. But this is an NC State team that did play, I believe, the first game without Devin Daniels in the lineup against Syracuse, and they lost. They lost by, I think, 3 points. What happened in that game was NC State built up a really nice lead in the first half. They went in with a double-digit lead, and then they just gave it up. You know, they got beat. They went into Syracuse. They weren't able to freaking play for 40. They were only able to play for 20. On the other hand, they weren't healthy. Not only were they missing Devin Daniels, who they won't have today, they were missing DJ Funderburk, and DJ Funderburk will be in the lineup tomorrow. I think that this is a situational revenge spot. This is a Syracuse team that's burnt your money on the road if you back them ATS. I do recognize that this is a number that really doesn't need them to win by more than a bucket. So there is that little bit of danger, but I do think that this NC State team has enough scoring in the backcourt, courtesy of guys like Cam Hayes and Braxton Beverly, to be able to make up. You're going to have Manny Bates and DJ Funderburk who are going to have to attack the back line of the zone, and that's where it's been most susceptible so far this year. with my fellow Canadian and who I would vote for Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in the ACC, Quincy Guerrero, he is definitely capable of busting out and giving you an 18-15 type score line, but he's also capable of fouling out before you hit that 3-minute mark in the second half. So there is that worry about that. And then when you're talking about their guards and Buddy Boeheim and Joe Girard, listen, there's a lot to be expected when it comes from them shooting the basketball. But if you've ever watched Syracuse games and you see Buddy interacting with his dad in timeouts, that's worth the freaking price of admission right there with the amount of rolling his eyes that he does. It's real hilarious. But from a betting perspective, this is a Syracuse team that I like at home. I don't like on the road. I tried to give them a chance a couple times, including the most recent game against Pittsburgh. Let me down. I think that this NC State team is like an abused dog. It remembers and it's going to bite back. This is a wolf pack. You know, they hunt as a freaking pack and they eat as a pack. And there's some orange men coming into their territory and they don't like that. So they're going to eat them. And they're going to do that because they're going to avoid front court foul trouble. They're going to win on the offensive glass. They're going to attack that back line of the zone, and they're going to be successful doing so and get into the free throw line. They're going to make the free throw line their friend, not their enemy, not the girl sitting in the front of the class that they want to take into the stairwell but don't know how to ask to come with them. They're going to have the same plan that they had in the first game. A strong first half, lots of ball screens and pick and roll. Limit your opponents' possessions and limit their attempts at the bucket and making as many shots as you can as difficult as possible. 3-level scoring is going to be key. You need free throws. You need them in volume. If you can do that, you will make this less of an ass clencher. When it comes to crisp ball movement, this is key. You don't have your ISO guy in Devin Daniels, so you're going to have to find guys' shots and maybe guys that you don't expect. Jericho Helms, that is your X factor for NC State. If he comes to play and gives you a double-double, I think that you're going to win this game. And when it comes to the total, you know, I definitely want to take the over, but if NC State's going to win this game, they're not going to be playing this game into the almost 150s. So I'm just going to stick with NC State, take them as a home small favorite, and hope that Nolly can find me a good line and that the Wolfpack feast. Let's go Wolfpack.
I mean, I think that's very interesting. You mentioned it, Syracuse having some real struggles on the road. So I don't know, maybe telling this as well. But as far as line shopping, you got anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 available out there. So it shows the importance of line shopping. Here I'm able to get NC State minus 1.5, minus 110 at Bet365.
Sounds good to me, Nolly.
Nice. We'll lock that in. The importance of line shopping, I mean, you talk about over the course of a season, it's going to make a difference. 1 or 2 games, you won't see it. Over the course of the season, you definitely will. That being said, truck right along. We're going to continue right into the SEC. We've got Alabama going on the road to face South Carolina. And Alabama coming off a tough road loss to Missouri. I mean, you're talking, they were getting blown out in that first half, down 16 points in the first half, down 22 at one point in the second half, came all the way back just to lose by 3 points against Missouri. Alabama has been extremely good here against the SEC, 10-1 against the SEC. South Carolina, complete opposite, 3-5 against the SEC. And when you see their record kind of going back and forth, win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. Ultimately, South Carolina 5-7 straight up, 5-7 ATS, 7-5 over under. This is a SEC matchup. I mean, I would expect Alabama to sit here and bounce back. I mean, do we think a hangover after that big game against Missouri? Missouri really being the only team in the SEC really contending at the top with them. I mean, do we see a hangover here, or does Alabama come out angry here, Max? How are you looking at this?
Well, I actually took this game already, but the lines moved completely completely in favor of me, so it's going to suck that I'm going to have to change my pick last minute. I already bet South Carolina plus 7.5. I think that I'm only seeing 6.5s out there at the variety of books that we can use on the show. And I'm really worried about this game for Alabama because it is a ranked versus unranked. We know how they do so far this year. Not very well ATS. We also know that there's a possibility that Herb Jones doesn't play with a back injury. And when you take him out of the lineup, in addition to Jordan Bruner, you just really highlight and emphasize the major weakness for this Alabama team. At the beginning of the year, it was not having a true pass first point guard to operate the offense. Well, listen, you got Josh Primo, 6'6", Canadian, cold-hearted, basketball playing genius. Okay, so you don't have to cry about that anymore. Roll Tide, roll, baby. But now they have this whole issue in the front court. Alex Reese is definitely serviceable, but he is undersized. He can get into foul trouble. And I think that this is where Alabama is going to be at their biggest disadvantage. In games that Alabama wins, they score over 70 points, plain and simply. That's what happens. If they can get their offense going, then they're going to win games. If they don't, then they're going to have an Oklahoma or they're going to have another Missouri. They have not been good on the road. They have lost quite a few conference games. This team just does not have that same confidence on the road. And even more so now, they're going to be that much more dependent on Jaden Shackelford and John Petty to score from the three-point line. So if this three-point shot isn't dropping for them, not only could they lose this game also, this game could be a major under. So with South Carolina and Alabama, what I've noticed from reading the game logs and watching the games and betting on the games live is that these numbers in the 150s and the mid 150s have been staying under. They've been staying under by significant amounts. We've seen two South Carolina games, specifically against Georgia and Florida, that were in the 150s, stayed under by 13 and 16 and a half points respectively. The last four games that Alabama's played, we've seen in the range of 148 to 164. And anywhere in between, we've seen unders stay under by 19, 26, 19 and a half points. So as much as this is going to upset people that don't like to bet unders, Nolly, I'm taking the under in this game. I would have taken South Carolina at plus 7.5, but if it's no longer there anymore, then there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to take a worse line on the show, especially when it's a full point. So I could be eating crow on this total very early in the day, but from what I've watched and Alabama being on the road and not being at home, I like the prospects of this game staying under.
I mean, I don't know who doesn't like to bet unders, but I don't know. We might be able to say that they're a lost cause. If you don't like betting unders, you might be a lost cause. I don't know. But you know what, Max? I got some good news for you. BetMGM is laying that 7.5 for you. So if you want South Carolina, you're still able to get the 7.5. Would you like that?
Absolutely. I'll take that 7.5. I just wanted to point out also, Nolly, I don't just favor Canadians on Alabama teams. I do favor Canadians that play in all Division I teams. So South Carolina's going to have the services of A.J. Lawson. It's going to be critical for them to disrupt him, turn him over, and keep him off the glass. And if the three isn't dropping for South Carolina early, they're going to go to the rim often on many possessions. If Alabama can avoid this road softness, this lack of quality bigs, and limit the supporting cast of Justin Minaya and Jermaine Couisnard, I think that Alabama should be okay, but I just don't think they're going to be able to do that. Their liability on the offensive glass, they can't take the ball away from you. They can't protect the rim adequately. And if they don't establish their three-point shot early, well, they're not going to score really efficiently from anywhere else on the floor. I think that their three-point defense will determine whether or not the spread comes through for us. But at 7.5, it's just too much value to pass up. So I'm good and gravy with that, bro.
Nice, nice. I like that. I like that breakdown. And then as far as the total, we got pretty much everywhere. We got 155.5, except for at Circa, we got 156.5, minus 110.
Yep, I'll definitely take that. Circa is definitely not afraid to post another number, and that's why they're a book that I would like to use.
Yeah, I've been noticing that. I didn't know that before prior to doing these, but I'm noticing the Circa's getting some good numbers, especially totals wise.
Well, they're not afraid of winners, from what I've heard. So they're probably one of the best legal books out there.
Definitely something good to know. Definitely. We're gonna go ahead and move right along. We're gonna continue here in the SEC. Mac's gonna continue here. We got Arkansas going on the road to face Kentucky, and Kentucky. I mean, like very a lot of these blue blood teams that we talk about really not up to par this season. They're 5-12 on the year, 5-11 against the spread, over under 6-11. So they've been a pretty good team defensively, running at a slower pace, shooting just putting up just 59 field goal attempts per game. Typically a team that I'll look for on the under. Arkansas on the other side. Uh, Arkansas 14-5 straight up, 11-7 ATS. First year with the new coach here. This is an interesting matchup here. Kentucky losing. I mean, they've lost 6 of the last 7, both straight up and ATS. Kind of reminds me of Kansas and what they're struggling with. Kansas was able to pull it out today, was able to get the victory. What do you think about Kentucky here? Do you think they turned around here at home, get it going, and try to make a case for trying to get in into the tournament? What do you think, Max?
I think that this Kentucky team has just some major character flaws that Coach Cal hasn't been able to coach out of them. I think that this line definitely is very suspicious. I don't understand why Arkansas isn't a favorite, but then I do look at their game logs. I do read a lot of box scores, and I know that Arkansas has really, excuse my language, fucked the dog on the road. So with Arkansas, I'm a believer in Coach Musselman. I'm a believer in Razorbacks. I think that if I came across one, it would let me ride it. And I want to ride this dog today. I want to take them. I want to get on Arkansas. I want to believe in the fact that this wonderful combination of different transfers from different places are able to go on the road and beat someone not named Vanderbilt. I think that when you look at the losses that they've already incurred so far in the year, you're looking at Alabama, you're looking at LSU, you're looking at Tennessee, all losses that are respectable and I can understand. I think that with this Arkansas team, they are going to get to play against a Kentucky team that is very weak-minded. This is a Kentucky team that is making mistakes on both sides of the ball. They're having intense defensive lapses, and it's leading to turnovers at critical times. They play me ball, not team ball. All these guys were the best players on their AAU team. They're the best players on their high school teams, and they haven't learned to play together and play to support each other. And that's what's causing them to have these types of results. This is not a tournament quality team, in my opinion. They need to take advantage of the top dogs not willing to step back in the offense, and the offense is suffering. The only thing that gives Kentucky any credibility in this game, and the only reason why I can think why the lines makers have put this number out is the fact that Kentucky's defense is that stout. While they can't score the ball if their life depended on them in most games, they have been very stout. They've lost 5 games where they've allowed less than 66 points. They're only allowing a point per possession, and they have a 15.4% block percentage. So their effective defensive efficiency rates are high because of that. But in games that Kentucky wins, they score 75 plus. It's a real simple way of looking at it. If Kentucky can score the ball on this Arkansas defense, then they have a chance. They have a chance also to get this game over. If not, They're going to be slurping cock soup because Arkansas is loaded. They have a freshman sensation in Moses Moody, who's averaging 16 points a game. There are some injury concerns within the roster right now, but I do think that they will have everyone there. When they win big, and I'm talking 10 plus point scoring margin big. If they score 80 plus, that usually equals a win also. And they're very good at punching at their own weight, which basically means when they have to step up in competition, like LSU, like Alabama, like Tennessee, they get smacked in the mouth and put on their freaking backside. But in this game, I think that they shake off the freaking road curse. They go into Kentucky. They get a nice barrel of Kentucky bourbon. And they fuck Kentucky in the mouth with a hot shot. So I'll say this, Nolly. I'll take Arkansas as a dog on the spread. I'm not going to go brazen and balls deep to take them on the money line on the show.
Wow. Wow. A whole lot to digest there. I tell you that. There's a little variety when we talk about the spread here. You can catch a plus 2.5 at Circa, plus 2.5 minus 110, or you can catch a plus 2 at Fox Bet at plus 100.
Plus 2 at 100, please.
Plus 100, and that's available at Bet365.
Sounds good, sir.
Nice.
All right, well, we've gotten to the point of the show, Nolly, where I'm going to actually take a break from talking and I'm going to switch roles and do the line shopping for you.
Thought it'd
So
never come.
I just have to point out that we are both on Gonzaga right now, and they are in the position of possibly blowing this cover. So I will stop focusing on that and I will get back to the game. So we have a wonderful game in the Big Ten that we are going to let our main man, the master Jedi of unders, the man who makes unders great again, Nolly Knows, attack. Penn State at Michigan. 7 p.m. Eastern start. Michigan State, what have they done? Cost you money, burnt you money, but they're going up against a Penn State team that's had trouble on the road, and they've been dynamite at home. I think that when you look at this team, both these teams are averaging in the 70 points. Both are allowing in the 70s. I think that the difference is Michigan State can win at the free throw line, and Penn State can dominate at the three-point line. Three-point defense is about equal. And when it comes to result wise, Penn State has had some very nice success at home, but their two road losses in step up competition games against Wisconsin and Ohio State, they did get smacked around. I do think that with Michigan State, they are playing Nebraska, so their chances of victory are probably decreasing, but probably still a good chance. I'm more interested in what our guy Nolly Knows has to say about this total. I think I know where he's going, but let me pass it off to him and let's figure out what he's going to do on this -2 to -3 line for Michigan State with a total of probably around 143.5 to 144.
Yeah, you mentioned it right there, Max, right off the bat. Michigan State costing quite a bit of money this year, 4-12 against the spread this season. Not typical of a Tom Izzo team. Not really playing very fundamental ball. Even the win against Nebraska, very sloppy play. Even Tom Izzo alluded to it. The offense still creating a lot of turnovers, shooting very poorly, and now gonna face a tough task going against Penn State. Penn State number 1 in their conference and defensive turnovers per possession. So Tom Izzo even talked about it yesterday in the press conference, talking about how taking control of the basketball is going to be a big factor when you talk about this game going against Penn State. And to me, when I hear those things, I just think about the guy sitting at the top of the key, passing left, catching it, and then passing it right. They eat up quite a bit of clock. You look at their field goal attempts field goal attempts per game for Michigan, and I think it's a bit inflated for for earlier in the season. Remember, this is February basketball. Things have changed dramatically. Michigan State has gone under 5 of the last 6 games, and not just that, by a large margin. They're going under by an average of 26.1 points. That's a pretty amazing. And conversely to the 60 field goal attempts per game, averaging just 51.6 field goal attempts per games in those 5 games. I mean, that shows you the big difference of what we see. And we see the similar thing happening on the other side with Penn State, averaging about 63, but in their last 2 games, 57 field goal attempts and 54 field goal attempts, respectively, against Wisconsin and Maryland. Struggled against Maryland, struggled to put the ball in the hoop, were able to come out with the victory. I mean, the advanced metrics for this Penn State team suggest that they're significantly better than what they are, but it just has not panned out over the last 2 seasons. This to me is a big game for Penn State if they want to get into the tournament. A lot of effort going to be put forth. Effort always equating towards defense, in my opinion. And I talked about it. Their turnovers per game, 14.6 opponent turnovers per game, good for 88th in the nation. And being at the slower pace of which that they've played at, that's an indicator to me leaning towards the under. And the fact that I see a total in the 140 range is what leads me towards the under even more. You look at the last 2 totals for Michigan State. I've been riding the train for them. I did lose against with Nebraska the first time around. I took under 151 and a half, and I emphasize that number, the 150, because only the last 2 games. The only last 2 games that have gone over the total of what totals set in the above 150. Anything below 150, Michigan State has cashed the under and cashed the under quite easily. So here, when I see the 144, it's kind of funny though, because I would have preferred to see the 144 over the 150. The 150 would indicate that maybe I have something wrong here. Maybe it isn't over. But when I see the 144, it makes me a little bit more confidence that I'm heading in the right direction. Michigan State trying to fix a lot of things. I don't think they have enough time to try to get back in the tournament. I think they've seen their way out. Even when I hear their star player Langford talk about how he just wants the team to be more consistent, just to get better day in and day out. Those are those are talks of a losing team. Just plain and simple, a team that just knows that they're out of it. But they are playing some pretty good defense and very poor offense. So therefore, to me, when I look at that total here at the 144 range, the only way I can look is under that total.
Well, Noli, I've line shopped for you at our American legal books that we use on the show, and I have found you at our favorite book, Circa Sports, 144 and a half minus 110. So I'm gonna lock you in on that, and I think that I think I'll end up tailing you in a way, but I will be selling a couple points on that total.
Yeah, I like that. I like this. I like the idea of selling the points, getting that plus money. Something that's kind of rare. Some that I still haven't really adjusted. I'm typical. I'm used to just getting the plain original lines. No funny business in between. So I'm still adjusting to all that other stuff. But yeah, I can't be mad at that. Especially when I talk about they're covering the unders by an average of 26.1 points. We're selling a couple points here.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, definitely, we'll go ahead and move right along. It seems like Max is a big SEC fan. He wants to take care of the whole conference here. He's on Auburn, Vanderbilt here next. We got 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. Auburn 4-7 in the SEC. Vanderbilt, the complete opposite. I heard you did some a little bit earlier. They are just 1-7 in the SEC. I mean, not making much money. 9-5 against the spread. Vanderbilt, an over team. Not typical of what Vanderbilt as of the last few years. They are 11-3 to the over. No wonder why I haven't watched not one of their games this year. I was wondering why. This is a very interesting game to me, Max. I mean, you're talking about uh, the bottom feeders and about the middle of the pack. I don't know if I'd be getting involved in this game, but so I'm really curious to see what you got going here. Auburn, Auburn has actually lost quite a bit of these matchups against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is 19-9 straight up against Auburn in the last 28 matchups. Auburn 2-0 the last 3 seasons, though, albeit. So Auburn trying to change the guard here. How do you see this game going, Max?
Noli, when I chose these games for this card, I was thinking about our odds.com audience and what they want to watch and wager on, whether they're tailing me or fading me. Hopefully, they make money whatever way they decide to go. But I'll tell you, how could I leave Auburn and Vanderbilt off the docket? When you go to Auburn University, there probably are a good deal of classes that you may take during your time there that you look out the window when you want to see something other than your professor, and you see cow fields and cows dropping turds. So, as a Roll Tide Nick Saban fan, I ask, really? That's what you want to look out the window and see? Sad, sad Tiger fans. Well, luckily, these Tiger fans have an opportunity to get back on the horse. They had a tough loss against Ole Miss. And the bottom line is, Bruce Pearl said it. Every beat writers wrote about it. You can see when you watch their game, they have major challenges on defense. There is lots of room to grow for this young team. And while they are one of the youngest teams in the Power Five, they are not, it's not an excuse anymore. They played a lot of games. They should be acclimated. And if they aren't, that just means that they may be the type that need to sit on the bench and not see playing time. With Auburn, they need to just really do some simple things that are correctable. You need to just be a better help defender, and you got to do a better job of keeping your man in front of you so you don't need that help defender to come over. I think that with their switching and their communication on the court, I think that that's something that needs work. But I think that Sharif Cooper, as he gets more adjusted, is going to be able to take care of that. I think that this has obviously been a big adjustment for a lot of these freshmen from high school to the SEC strength, quality, and size. So take your anger out on Vandy, you know? Vandy with Maxwell Evans, with Scottie Pippen Jr., Dylan Disu. They don't have a ton of depth, but they got guys that can play, so you better put them down early. With guys like Devin Cambridge and Sharif Cooper and JT Thor, you have a multitude of different guys that can score for you and create for you in different ways. JT Thor's going to run the floor. Sharif Cooper's going to be 10 plus assists in the game and maybe give you 25. I think that with Vandy, you may end up having trouble getting separation early on in the game, but you will be able to pressure them and press them late, and they do have a tendency to fade as the game goes on. Punish their 3-point defense. 42%, you got to fucking hit threes against them. If you can, then we're not going to have much ass clenching. We're not going to have to call them the heavy duty equipment to unclench my ass. I'm looking at Auburn in this spot. I think that if they can limit Vandy's free throw trips, win the turnover battle, and get Sharif Cooper going, Auburn's going to fucking cover this number. I would like to get a 5. If I can only get a 5.5, I may have to switch, but at 5, I will take Auburn. Noli, give me good news, please.
Yeah, I just feel sorry for your chair with all that ass clenching. But I do see I will be able to give you a 5 here. Shopping around once again, being vital in this moment. -5 plus 100 at Fox Bet available right now.
Choo choo. I'm getting on that train.
Oh, I love seeing that plus 100. Even if it's not plus complete plus money, even money is just as good. Just don't reach in my pocket. Okay. Now, right along, I think we've only got, what, 2 games left here, Max?
Yeah, we got 2 games, one that I'm on and then one that we're both on.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead. I guess we'll go to the game that you're on here first. We got Creighton at Georgetown, a Big East showdown. Creighton been looking really good this year. I mean, you look 10-4 in the Big East. Georgetown, the Patrick Ewing led um, Georgetown was 3-6 in their conference. I mean, you got everybody except Villanova with more than 2 losses in the conference. I mean, this is typical of the Big East. They typically beat up each other a lot. Creighton has been putting up quite a bit of points this season. Um, I think I know where you're headed here in this game, but I don't want to jump ahead of it. Max, what are you looking at here?
Noli, I don't think you're gonna know where I'm going with this game because with Creighton, they got some revenge against this Georgetown team. Just recently, about 6 days ago, Creighton they had a game. It wasn't in their building. They had to go somewhere else and play. I'm joking. No, they lost at home to Georgetown as a 14-point dog. Okay? Excuse me, as a 14-point favorite. Plain and simply, this is a spot where if Creighton has any goddamn guts, they better come out and they better return the favor to Georgetown on their home floor. Georgetown's coming off what I would call a pretty detrimental loss to Villanova, where they were very much in that game and just got outplayed, talent won out. And I think that with this Georgetown team, they have the type of grit, they have the type of quality to really turn this game into something that is very 3 point oriented or turning into something that is very ugly, like their game against Marquette. I personally think that it's going to be something that turns into a lot of 3 point shooting, and it's going to be led by Toronto born Javon Blair. Javon Blair is hitting, I think, 37% from the 3 point line. I expect him and Donald Carey and Jamarco Pickett to be able to score from the perimeter and inside the paint. And then with Chudier Bio, the Northwestern State transfer, he's just been a very nice anchor piece for this offense and on the glass defensively. I think him and Wahab are a great combination at the 4 and 5. You're not going to really muscle them around. And to be frank, Creighton's not going to want to do that because they don't have the personnel to do so. They may not have Caleb Bishop in this game, who has an ankle injury. That will deplete their size even more. They'll have to rely on Ryan Kalkbrenner and Jacob Epperson. And while they're not terrible options, I rather have Caleb Bishop in there. So I personally think that this game is going to be a little more high scoring. I think that we're going to get a better shooting performance than 5 for 15 from Marcus Zagorowski. It seems that he is really healthier now and that he's going to be able to find his shot. I think that this total at 150 is just too low, and I'm looking to take the over in this game, Noli.
I never told you this, but I think you look like an over better. Uh, but that's nor here nor there. Shopping around here, we'll get down to business. We got 150 to 151.5. We got 150 minus 110 available at Bet365.
Sign me up for that, bro.
All right, over 50, over 150 for my guy Max. Let's go ahead and we'll finish this thing off, Max.
All right. Well, we got the last game that Noli and I overlapped on. It's a wonderful game. It's a 9 o'clock game. It's probably a Fox Sports 1 game, which means that my Canadian, you know what, can watch it. I think that with this game, we're seeing a line around 3 to 3.5. This line is totally flipped from St. John's opening at minus 1.5. Now we're seeing a complete flip. And with the total, it opened at 140.5, and I'm seeing 140s to 139.5 across the legal boards right now. So I'm going to actually throw it to Noli on this game, and I'm going to get his read on it because this St. John's team has really learned and figured out how to win and play on the road, and they've done it unconventionally. They've done it with defense. So let's pass it off to Noli. Let's see where he's looking and leaning on this total in this game.
Yeah, you talk about it right away. When you talk about this matchup, the first thing that's going to jump out to everybody's mind is the way St. John's has been playing. You know, Mike Anderson takes over as the head coach after Chris Mullin steps down, has his issues with his family, his brother's passing. So even some people aren't even aware that Mullins is gone. But Mike Anderson has done a tremendous job over there. Immediately when he takes over as the head coach, he mentions two things that he wants to do. He wants his team to be the top in the nation at creating turnovers and the top of the nation at getting assists. And he has done that. The team is 10th as opponent turnovers per game at 17.1, and the team is 14th in the nation at team assists per game at 16.7. Those are two fundamental things that he's worked on and he's emphasized, and the team has shown up. Recently, they have been on a crazy tear. They have won 8 straight, both straight up and ATS, two straight up wins. One as a 7-point underdog, another as a 9.5-point underdog against Villanova. I mean, they've had 3 games to where it's between a pick 'em and a -1.5, and they won those games by an average of 12.5 points. You know, not one of those wins coming by less than 10 points. This team has played some tremendous basketball, sharing the basketball, playing some great defense, suffocating the other team. It's really playing some really good basketball, and I've been on the train, and honestly, I don't see any reason to jump off. On the other side for Butler, I mean, you look at one of the poorest teams offensively in efficiency. They're 253rd in offensive efficiency with just 9.44 rating. They're 333rd in possessions per game, which means to me that they really like to slow the pace quite a bit. You look what Butler's been able to do. They've been a low scoring team throughout the entire year. They've got Coach Jordan over there, Laval Jordan. He was an assistant for John Beilein for 6 years over there at Michigan. And you know what John Beilein was coaching over there? Unders. Oh, I mean, defense. I mean, isn't it the same thing? That's what I love to see out of these coaches. And that's something that I like to see. I like to focus on is their background and what they're able to do. This coach focuses on defense, and that's what you've seen out of this Butler team. They've lost 3 out of the last 4 straight up and against the spread. The unders 3 out of the last 4, 9-2 the last 11 on the unders for this Butler team. Have only gone over this total of 140 twice the entire season in 16 games. So give you an indication of where I'm leaning towards here. I'm leaning towards the under here in this game, and I'm leaning towards St. John's money line. I'm going to continue to ride with the train that they're on. I think they're being very efficient on offense. They're doing very good on defense. And another thing that Mike Anderson talks about is the versatility of this team. You don't know how we're going to beat you today, and that's the greatness of this St. John's team. You've seen in their wins that they've had to outscore people just in their last game with Providence, but you've also seen they've had to out defend people with their game with Villanova. So they're finding different ways to win the game. And my hat's off to Mike Anderson and what he's done with his team. And the money train is rolling. And I don't see a reason to jump off right now, especially against this Butler team that to me has not looked impressive all season. I'm going to continue to fade Butler and ride this St. John's team, but I also like the under here. Whatever number I can get, if I get that 140, I'd be really happy.
All right, Nolly. Well, are you going to make St. John's money line official also?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we'll have to get you that in the morning when money lines come available. On the total, I have managed to go to our good friends at Circus Sports and got you a under 140.5 at -110. So I will lock you in on that. And for me in this game, listen, it's the same kind of mentality. I'm not going to say the exact same reasons as Noli, even though I already think like him because I am his Padawan and he is the master Jedi that has trained me. I will say this though. With St. John's, there has been a turn. There has been a sense of maturity. This defense, the effort that has been put into it, the complete unselfishness of this team, the fact that they are able to impose their will, mentality, their high energy on their opponent. The point guard play has been fantastic. Posh Alexander, 18 points, 5 assists, 2 steals versus Nova and Providence. St. John's is going to beat you with the depth. They have Rasheed Dunn, so you do have another experienced ball handler that is capable to score and win you games. Greg Williams, another capable ball handler and scorer. But what has changed and what has been successful for St. John's is hit your opponent first. Sucker punch him, knee him in the balls, punch him in the throat. Get out, run your offense, put them on their heels. Don't be the counter puncher, be the aggressor. Go into the half with a lead. And I think that this is a group that now can play with a lead, maintain their performance, and not be a victim of a tale of two halves. Making free throws on the road is very important. Getting to the free throw line more is vital. Forcing 14 plus turnovers, being plus 11 in the first half in conference when it comes to just scoring points. I think that this team is going to tell us very early whether or not they're going to win this game. I think that on the offensive glass, this is where you need to cover up a little bit of a blemish. And really, the main question with St. John's is who else is going to step up tomorrow? Is it going to be Josh Roberts? Is it going to be Vince Cole? Is it going to be Isaiah Moore? Is it going to be Marcellus Earlington? You know, you need guys aside from Champagne, aside from Posh Alexander, aside from Rasheed Dunn to freaking do things for you. Plain and simply, Butler's beat DePaul, Georgetown, and they surprised Creighton. Those are not quality wins. This is not a quality team. This is a number that I do not agree with. I'll take St. John's plus 3. I won't go money line, but I'll take the 3 points. And as far as the total, I'm not going to bet on the total, but I definitely would lean towards the under as well. I would have to buy a point or two, though. I have to sell a point or two, though. But Nolly, for the show, please lock me in for St. John's plus 3 or better if you can find it.
All right, yeah. I mean, I'm jumping around here. 3 seems to be pretty much the best number that we're able to find both at Circa and at Bet365 at minus 110. So we'll go ahead and do Circa plus 3 minus 110.
All right, sounds good then.
You know, and something you mentioned with what St. John's been able to do, and the big reason they've been able to do it, they've got 2 key contributors coming off the bench, and that's something that you don't see out of a lot of college basketball teams. To have 2 guys come off the bench and average around 9 points a game. I mean, they've got 4 guys that they can they can really rely on. They've got some really good point guard play. They've got some good forward play, can hit the threes, and I think that's going to be the difference here in this game. Better forward play from St. John's to suffocate to suffocate what they're able to do on the other side for Butler. So St. John's really a play that I'm really liking.
All right, well, let's go over our plays. Nolly, I'll read yours out and then you'll read mine out.
Sounds good.
First off, you're starting off with VCU in Dayton under 133 at Fox Bet at minus 110. Then you are going to under 144.5 in the Penn State-Michigan State game. You can get that at minus 110 at Circa. And then lastly, you are taking St. John's when the money line's available in the morning, and you are taking their game under 140.5 minus 110, also available at Circa.
Yes, sir. Redemption. That's what we're striving for. And then here we go on Max's side. We got Max on VCU minus 1/2, minus 105 at points bet. Then we got James Madison minus 4, minus 110 available at Circa. Then you got also in that same game, James Madison, Elon under 143.5, minus 110 available also at Circa. Then we have NC State minus 1.5, minus 110 available at Bet365. Then we go on to the SEC. He's got Alabama, South Carolina under 156 and a half, minus 110, available at Circa. And he's also in that same game, South Carolina plus 7.5, minus 110 at BetMGM. Then continuing in the SEC, he's got Arkansas plus 2, plus 100 at Bet365. Fox Bet, we've got Auburn minus 5, plus 100. I think I might be jumping on that Auburn pick with you. It just keeps, it's looking at me. I didn't look at it, it's looking at me. So that might be a sign. I'm just saying. Then the last one, second to the last, we got over 150 against Creighton, Georgetown at Bet 365. And then last but not least, we got St. John's plus 3, minus 110, available at Circa. I'm hoping I can get some good plus money on that money line. I really like what St. John's is doing. And let's keep cashing these tickets.
All right, well, that sounds great. Looking forward to hopefully a day that I get to spend with the ladies of the night indoors and not in stairwells with hand warmers. And hopefully we get the roller coaster going upwards. So that is it from Nolly and I. Check out odds.com for all your sports betting needs, articles, odds, and of course, our show. So without further ado, let me pass it off to Nolly Knows to give us a little, maybe a couple last words.
Oh, hey, honestly, I just want to thank everybody for checking out the video. Thank you for listening to our insights. Like we mentioned, tail, fade, whatever it is. Hopefully we gave you a little bit of info so that you could run and tell your friends or maybe laugh at or whatever it is. Hopefully we gave you a little bit of entertainment. But ultimately we are here to win, and that's what we will do. So let's cash some tickets, and I'll see you at the window.